The music is still on. Thank you. Whoops. We have two very strong players here today in our third place match. Unfortunately, they did not manage to make it to the finals, but of course there is still some to fight for here, some pride in getting in that top 3 spot, as well as some SMC points. Those do, there is some effect on those when you make it to the third place.
Mostly bragging rights, though.
Mostly bragging rights, yeah. I think that's true. I think if you're third or fourth place, they're both pretty okay in terms of SMC qualification. But let's get on into it. We have a draft, I believe. Scott, do you want to go over that?
Once I found it. We have David picking 1-2 few, Lev picking book it, David banning library, and Lev banning courtyard. And we have then David doubling the other library, 4 of 8 rather than 5 of 8, and Lev doubling redwoods.
Yeah, to be clear, 1-2 few is a set up with where everything has just one less mission than the standard setup. So Courtyard is 3 of 7, Modern is 4 of 8, which is actually quite normal these days. But Veranda and Library both 4 of 8 in that setup, while Book It has a lot of those venues that have pretty strong opportunities for microfilm, like Aquarium, Library 5 of 8, Redwoods, and Gallery. So very, very fun draft here, I think, because we have a lot of opportunities for the spy side. We only have one, or I'd say 2 venues that are solidly within sniper dominance, and that's Library 5 of 8 and the Gallery pick. Lots of opportunities for spy in this set.
Definitely, I think Library 4 of 8 has more possibilities for spy, so I'm excited to see twice as much of that.
Yeah, and now we do have our first game here. David W. on the sniper side to start us out. We are going to be starting out on that Aquarium from the Book It set, as was mentioned. Playing as Ponytail here. Scout, you want to count us in?
I'm ready. In 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Lots of long AI control here from Lev. That's I feel like a little bit unusual for top level players. They usually just take control immediately, have that ability to choose where they want to go.
It's interesting that we've been fine with AI taking us into statues. I guess this is reasonable, since I thought we weren't going to get highlight for statues. We did briefly, and now we're back to neutral.
Yeah, it is interesting. David W. has been using some unusual, unorthodox lighting strategies in the lead up to this match, in the last few matches. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on in this one in particular. As you mentioned, a brief highlight onto Lev T for the statue, perhaps, but then brought back down to a neutral light.
Other than that first inspect, though, we haven't really gotten too much done. Smallman's been busy walking around. Smallman being IST.
Yes. David W. well known for flirt tracking, doing a very strong job of that on average, so it's something that Lev is probably going to be a little bit more careful about, or you could go the other direction and be very brazen about it and to kind of turn that flirt into kind of a hardtail by going for cheese flirts and try to play against the flirt tracking that way.
So far, it looks like the way we're going to play against the flirt tracking is by not doing flirt at all. Lev just happily completing statues here.
Oh, we just swapped, and it was on screen. There was a zoom in from David W. there. Maybe we are swapping for someone specific, because David seemed ready to go to look for that.
And we have all the lowlights coming out, so this game will very quickly be down to 2, it looks like, and the question is, can we be the one of the 2 that doesn't get shot?
Well, it's currently down to 4, but I imagine we'll eventually see it narrow down to just the 2, but or not. Okay, there goes Taft, down to 3. So we'll see.
Well, down to 3 plus Damon, because he matters. He's right next to that statue. He could have done that.
True. We maybe if you were playing Wobble's Wackadoodle replays, that would be possible.
We also have 47% flirt, which is sad making, because 47 plus 51 does not equal 100.
Yeah.
Leave making use of this and just bailing on the idea of any kind of two flirt and going across convoy where we're slightly less likely to be paired.
Yeah, and the question here at this point is, how do you finish missions? I imagine that Lev knows exactly who he was framing for, that being Green Dress over here, who is currently at Green Books. Assuming David W. has got this tracked correctly in terms of the possible swapper and swappee. And I imagine Lev has to be going for just a flirt and finish off the game with a contact and try to get Green Dress in with a double agent or an SDA before that happens. But it's, we're getting low on time, and she is at bar.
She's at bar, so in the absolute worst case, we could try and purloin for her, but I feel like that's a very low EV play.
Yeah, it's not super likely to work just because we would be the active participant in something like that. Here we go. Here comes the contact from Lev. It's going to be a white test contact, though, that might induce a shot from... There it is, yeah. David W. understanding, kind of like... Even if you are not sure about who could have done the swap, and not sure about the fade there, which, David W. had the zoom in on the fade, so it's possible that David had a good idea of what the fade was like. But even if you don't, just the movement across that party in the end game from the two the two possible suspects, Lev's activities were much more spy-like.
And of course, always shoot the white contact.
Of course, but that does mean that David W. will be taking the first game on the Aquarium Sniper. Our next game, we will see WW take the spy side, and have a decent chance, I would say, of taking a lead in the set to start us out, just because Aquarium has a lot of opportunity for the spy. But Lev, of course, a very strong sniper. We'll see what David W. can get done in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
As the plainest of twins. Which, if you've got that much style, you're well on the way to winning anyway. David W. starting out with the signature, going to a conversation with no one particularly of note, and standing in it.
Yeah, very slow start from David. David W., of course, a player who has long been known to, time out a lot, have very slow spy, but I think in recent, months has kind of bucked that trend in a lot of ways, is now getting to mission win countdown far more consistently, still perhaps on the slower side of things on average, but it's not such a big thing. It used to be the joke that you could walk away from your computer while sniping David W. Spy and come back and have won, because just how frequently he timed out. But yeah, I think that's been a big change in his gameplay over the past 6 months, and it's why we're seeing him here in the third place match.
Well, we have one light flirt in pocket. Sadly, we moved out just as our ST was coming back to us. But this isn't looking like a terrible contact. There it is, a nice screen test.
Yeah, pretty good contact. It is a little bit earlier on in the game, which means the impact of the lowlights that gives out will be slightly higher. But when you see a contact as good as this, you're not too concerned about it, because Aquarium can have a lot worse contacts available.
It can also put a little bit more pressure on the sniper to shoot if we do want to show a hard tell later in the game, which, depending on the strength of the frame, can be good or bad.
Indeed, that is true. 63% now on the flirt. Green test across conversation. We will be needing one more green or two more whites, depending on the action test here. A second contact going to be knocking out at least one more person. There goes Wheels as well. Wheels was indeed out for that, but it was possible that Lev didn't actually get that low light, but instead did get that. So now we have 6 low lights in the party. David W., a neutral light, but everyone's a neutral light right now in this game. So not standing out, but a couple of suspects eliminated. Not much progress from David W. yet.
And here we are coming to pick up a drink, it looks like. So if Purloin is one of our missions on the way to completion, I'm not quite sure what the 4th mission might be.
I think this might actually be a frame attempt onto Smallman. Smallman, I believe, went to bar recently and came and sat next to us. But no, we're just going to take a delegate. Maybe that was the original intent, maybe not, but either way, that's not what's actually going to happen. We do set up a cross from Alice here. Again, Ponytail as the ST. 63% of the flirt, so we are going to need 2 more regardless of the test here. And it is a white test, so 81%.
This makes it pretty easy to finish with almost any flirt, not quite any flirt, but we have a bit of an issue of needing to do a few more missions before the clock runs out.
Yeah, and David W. might be making me eat my own words. I was just talking about how David's been getting to Countdown quite a lot more consistently in recent times, but 28 seconds.
We delegated to someone with a book, and now she's going to have to go and slam that and then go and take the list.
Yeah, the question is, will this actually land? Because that's going to be a big part of whether or not we can finish this game. We might have a bug here if the Ambassador leaves soon enough or the Shark is around. We could try to get there, but the delegate timer expires, so we're only at 1 mission. We don't even have the full flirt. It's just going to be a timeout, but Lev, shaking his laser, is frustrated. I think it's going to be a hold in the end, but it's a green test timeout here at the end from David W. The clock will hang, and how does Lev react?
No reaction whatsoever.
And I think that's fair. There is no overtime. Lev can now solidly wait until he hears overtime beeps. And I just don't think that those are actually ever going to happen. Here comes a delegate, like just a purloin from David W. And, Lev didn't have to shoot there because there was still no overtime beeps, but maybe was concerned about some sort of shark cheese potential happening. That's always a little bit of a worry on Aquarium. So even if the overtime beeps weren't there, Lev is going to find that shot, knows that couldn't have been a delegate because Twin was just at the window. So good reaction to the hanging clock, despite that little bit of frustration, that shaking that we saw at the end of the game from Lev. Holds and finds the sniper win on Aquarium to keep us locked up.
I think that's a reasonable start. Both players holding on sniper.
Indeed.
Less guaranteed in the next venue, though. I think 408 Library, the extent to which you can keep that locked down on Sniper is still to be seen properly.
Yeah, 408 Library is something that we have seen a little bit of before in the past in some more experimental tournaments. So we have had some level of,
More experimental, including last year's Winter Cup.
There was an entire tournament based around the 4 of 8 venues for the 5 of X standard setups, I believe. I forget exactly what it was called, but it does exist. Anyways, but the point is, we've seen this setup before. We've seen some 4 of 8 library, but it is by no means the kind of standard setup for this venue, and so a lot of players are going to be relatively inexperienced on it, and it'll be interesting to see how they adapt. First off, we have Lev here on the spy side playing as Buns in 3, 2, 1. Playing it.
Bug? No bug.
No chaos bug here, but we do get an offer from Toby immediately. It would have been an interesting idea maybe to go for the really quick green purloin. You just kind of came to us naturally. We were behind the pillar. Things were still very, very chaotic. But instead, we just take the innocent drink, take our 50% flirt with wheels, and Lev deciding not to go for any sort of rush game.
I'm going to be intrigued as to whether we intend to just time a flirt. Well, that option gone as Wheels leaves us.
Indeed.
This might help a little bit with our timing, being forced to go and get something else done.
Lev deciding just to walk over to this very far painting pad. Toby's nearby. The Ambassador is a little bit nearby. Walked away from the conversation spot that he was in, but is now over at the yellow books nearby. It's possible we could get a bug, especially as David's laser does tend to be lingering on this left side of the venue because there are a lot of, characters over there, a lot of suspects over there in that area, despite the fact that the Ambassador's on the other side. David W. taking a lot more time than maybe a lot of players would with the Ambassador off screen. We did snap back around the time Lev was walking past the Ambassador, so had Lev taken that bug, it might have been caught, but something to consider for Lev if you're playing here and you're thinking about how to get missions past David W. David W. spending a lot of time looking at where the majority of the characters are, rather than,
Well, I think it worked out not doing anything for the first minute and a half of this game.
Yeah.
The main question is how soft or low light this is. If we start doing missions, we might well be brought back up again, and then we're just punished twice in that we have hardly any time and are having to do missions.
Yeah. When you're in this sort of a spot, we have seen David W. in this tournament bring low lights back up and shoot them. In fact, happened against me in particular in our round of 16 match. So he is capable. He is very capable of doing that. But the main thing to avoid, I think, would be the soft tells. You don't want to get yourself into a spot where you're doing soft tells and just kind of have a free ticket to be brought back up to a neutral or highlight. But wow, look at this. Down to only 5 characters in this party for David W. One of them not the ambassador. The ambassador is low lit. So yeah, 5 characters now. 4. Okay, 5 again. But like, it's point is it's really narrowed down. But in this case, it's actually not narrowed down correctly. But Lev hasn't actually done anything. You need to take advantage of this low light. And yes, you know, you're not 100% certain that you're a low light in this game because you really haven't done much. But I think Lev is now playing into that. Lev is saying, I've done nothing for long enough. I think I'm a low light. I'm going to go cheese this flirt, and I'm going to get my missions done this last minute.
Okay, but 1 minute to do 3 missions, and I'm slightly concerned.
Yeah, 1:05 on the clock. Again, it is this 4 of 8 library setup, so there's less to do. But look at this. Just 3 characters are not low lit for David W. here.
And we didn't take this Purloin. We need to do an emergency time ad or something quite soon.
Yeah, Lev needs to make things happen much quicker than it is going to, like, you know, seeming to happen right now. We're going to take a fake and we're going to split, but there's no reason to split when you're already low lit. Of course, it must be that Lev does not realize that he's low lit. 30 seconds left. You actually only have the fake still because that wasn't real for us. We have the print. We're going to go over and we're going to direct transfer this from yellow to green.
I'm concerned.
But we still need 2 more missions.
I'm concerned.
We take this book out. Is it printable as well? But we still need to get it. It's a red test print. No, we missed it. And Lev is gonna. How does Lev finish here? There's no way. We have to time ad.
Time ad. It barely takes. We have. That was at 0-0. The time ad actually takes. That was very close. And now we just need to find another fingerprint to finish.
0.0. And the time ad goes through that, but it is also a white time ad, and this is actually, I think, a little bit critical sometimes in the end game here, because when we're just gonna bug.
It's off screen. I think we have it. We tried to go for a briefcase, and obviously realized that we weren't gonna get there in time. I think General beat us to it. And decided that the emergency bug was the way out, and seems to have worked.
Yeah, and all this could have been avoided by hitting that green fingerprint off of the green books. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be for Lev, but the low light was strong enough to stick, despite the fact that we were briefly seen at windows when this time ad comes off. Oh man, that was really dicey. Lev putting the whole game kind of on that one difficult fingerprint. And still coming out on top despite missing it. So well done from Lev. An unfortunate low light from David W. And Lev's going to take the lead here. Now needs to snipe the 4 of 8 library to hold the lead.
And David going to be doing his best as Red Dress.
Mm-hmm.
In 3, 2, 1, playing it. And doing the good old, oh look, we've landed right next to AST. That's really nice flirt progress this early in the game.
Yep, 46%. Unfortunately, not close enough to have the 2 flirt opportunity, but this early on, you're not too concerned about that. 46% is more than good enough.
And already at statues. I think David taking a note out of how the last game went and deciding that going burr on missions is the way to go.
Yeah, interesting. I think a small mistake from David W. there, by the way. In that we have just inspected the center statue and only gotten the 1 inspect during that time. So if we want to complete our inspects, we have to do it over at the left side of the venue if we don't want to go center statues. because going to the right side of the venue, you'd have to go center statues to complete inspects over there right now. So it's a very minor mistake, but it's something that can crop up and be a problem later on if, you know, for whatever reason we're stuck on the right side of the venue here, and that's where we want to finish our inspects. Center inspects just look so much worse, but we do pick up the highlight for the partial inspects here. Pretty standard, I think. It's a really minor thing that probably won't even affect this game. But, you know, it was just one of those things to keep an eye out if you're the spy.
And the end of red.
And we have the signature BB split from David.
Yeah, early BB split here, giving away about 5 lowlights to Lev, and we do keep our highlight here. You know, no help. Oh, we go for the
That
bug
bug though. That bug though.
Was that unseen? It was towards the sniper. No, okay. Lev has got it. He's just looking around, making sure he's got a clear shot. I think it's a nice attempt at the bug. The main thing here is that Lev is just watching it. It's towards us as the sniper. I actually really like these kind of bugs because they can be very strong, but you have to time it in a way that you actually get the wrong arm away from the sniper, which makes it a lot more subtle. Additionally, you want to kind of do it in when you are closer to the center here, and like the center of these green books, because if you do it more to one of the sides, the sniper is a better angle to see the wrong arm, just based on how the venue is constructed. So it's a good idea from David W. The execution leaves just a little bit something to be desired, and Lev, very strong sniper, catches it out and is indeed able to take the 3-1 lead coming out of the library 4 of 8.
But, of course, there's more Library 4 of 8, given that this was David W's double.
Oh, right. Yes, absolutely. There is indeed more Library 4 of 8. So, Lev now on the spy side once again, playing as Ponytail here. Getting it going in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
And I think both these players realizing that some speed is appreciated in this venue. So choosing one of the fastest helps.
Yep. Actually, Ponytail's not actually that fast. Is above average, I believe, but not...
She is when she's cheese flirting.
Oh, and cheese flirting.
And bugging.
And bugging, indeed, as you mentioned. As we mentioned last game, David W. has been leaving the ambassador off screen a lot longer than most players like to, in favor of a higher concentrated area of where the AIs are, and it punishes him. In this case, I think Lev T, noticing that fact during the last game, just goes for a very standard just walk by the ambassador bug. This is something that you only do if you're really expected to be off screen, so well done from Lev finding that little opening.
And it's hard to tell. I think this highlight was just for inspects rather than any kind of bug suspicion.
I agree.
I guess we'll find out as it looks like we're gonna... No, not
oh,
quite.
Wow.
What?
I think the path here is what causes this. Maybe it is. Maybe there is some sort of bug suspicion here, or caught the cheese flirt. Perhaps it was sort of something. It wasn't necessarily visible on screen, but there was some evidence for David W. that a cheese flirt happened, because you see, early on in this game, you see Ponytail land in this conversation, and if you're marking that in your head as, okay, Ponytail's in this conversation with these people, and then suddenly you see Ponytail moving, it's a very fast lead from that conversation. Then later on, you know that she would have passed by the ambassador here, and when that happens, I think there's some level of evidence that maybe David W. is using. And then when this path happens, I don't think it's... it is very strange because there's a lot of bouncing, but David W. ends up taking the shot. And it's a very strange one. I think I think that it's like not as crazy as it seems, Scout, but it is something that you really don't expect if you're the spy.
I think it's as crazy as it seems, but that's just me.
Well, it just depends on what you're looking at, I suppose. And we do have the next game, the final game of the double library 4 of 8, with David W. on the spy side, playing as Duke here, trying to bring it back by finding a spy win. If Lev manages to hold sniper here, we will, still have that Lev T advantage going into the rest of the set. This is a first to 9. You'll recall, as these sets are a little bit extra long with the doubles in them. You want to kind of send Scout?
Ready in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Thank you very much. All right.
And almost a chance.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
we did try for the bug. Sadly, the bouncing did not make that work, but that could have been pretty sick.
Yeah, David W. going for something very slick there. It's not something that you would really expect, and it's actually kind of hard to see. It's surprisingly hard to see. You would think the arm just, sticks out like a sore thumb there, but it is mostly behind pillar despite our positioning and the way that worked out. Unfortunately, Ambassador, as you mentioned, was bounced away during that path, but I like the attempt from David W. Shows a high amount of situational awareness with regard to that sort of bug. Not every player is going to even process that opportunity in time to take it.
This party is being pretty busy for the Sniper 2 control. There's just so much activity on the left. I mean, there's no one on the right side of the venue, but that doesn't mean that everyone is on the left side and they're doing stuff.
Oh, no.
Did we just miss a pad?
I think we did just miss a pad. There was a lot of other movement going on in the area, so it might not have been noticed by Lev. And
just call it a briefcase and don't worry about it.
It might have looked like a combo stop as well. There's some argument to be made that if Lev wasn't looking straight at us and just kind of saw the stop there, you could argue, okay, well, that conversation's pretty full. Maybe it's just a conversation stop because the conversation was filled up there. So it does not look like we were punished for that slight mechanical error there from David W. And as you mentioned,
sadly, it meant that we didn't actually get to do our inspects there, which would have been nice because so many people have partial inspects here. It'd be reasonably low suspicion mission progress.
Yeah, I agree. And we also didn't get the flirt that we were aiming for there. Our ST was at statues at the same time.
And we're not going to get the flirt we were aiming for now as Wheels dumps us.
Oh no, that's tragic for David W., who's just been really searching out this flirt so much in this early game. And after not getting that bug, if we had that bug in our pocket, we wouldn't feel so bad about how many splits we're getting from our ST. We are being offered a drink here, but we are fully on screen. Everyone's in this area. The ambassador's in this area. Toby's in this area. Almost all of the AIs in the party are in this area. So nothing really to do with that purloin there. I think it would just be a little bit too obvious, too in the sniper's face for David W. to take, especially without a way to get into mission win count afterwards.
And I was going to suggest a time ad, but it's a little bit hard to get a time ad pass when the ambassador is literally bouncing around you the entire time.
That is true. 1:35 on the clock. With this little progress, I do like the idea of going for a time ad. And we could go for that bug, but it was very clearly watched by Lev T. Just so many people in the area that could be doing reverse drive-by, and we didn't really have any sort of cover for it. So, again, good kind of situational awareness of knowing when you can take these bugs. I actually think that might have been a nice purloin. We were off-screen briefly as the ambassador had just migrated to the other side of the venue. But there still might have been a tracking based on our position and Toby's position based, when Lev looks back over.
With how busy this party has been, I feel like if we can show one hardtail, possibly even just a contact, this might be enough to get a civ shot.
Yeah, we are, as we keep mentioning, on this 4 of 8, venue. Rocker did just get a lot of attention for her visit to center statues here, so maybe we could even consider swapping for her as an attempt at a frame game. Would it work? I'm not sure, but I don't know that we have any other options. But now, David W. making a conscious decision to knock out that AI. She's gone to Green Books. That's a contact that will knock her out, so we can't really do that idea. We can't really swap for her, and we get shot, I think, for that really wonky path that we take in statues.
I think we were trying to make that look like a really bad statue call, like a green swap call.
Maybe.
Like, we started pathing, we got redirected, and then got called back to the statue. But Lev having nothing of that.
That is a possibility, but again, when, that AI has been knocked out, it's not going to work out. So, on to the next one, which we do have Redwoods. So more spy opportunities, which is, I think, slightly favorable to the player who is behind in the set. If you're the player that's ahead, you just you'd love to just play really sniper-sided venues for the rest of the way and just, take your, Lev T has this very strong sniper, take that strong sniper and walk it all the way to victory. But instead, it is Redwoods with Lev T now on the spy side playing as Disney here. Let's get it started in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
And reasonably long AI control. I think that's something you don't see very often. Which has sadly led us to this conversation with no one particularly of interest, even if there is, a twin in it. Which, sadly, this time means no one of interest, but it should be.
Yeah, no flirt here so far, but that's worked before against David W, intentionally not flirting very early on.
But we're intentionally doing absolutely nothing early on, which is making me sad. I like seeing spies go burr.
Yeah, Lev T maybe just trying to put pressure on David W, although I think David W typically does not shoot AIs all that frequently.
Well, Lefty finally deciding to get started with something. Having decided that speedrunning Redwoods on 2 minutes 30 is much more fun. 51% definitely helps with this though.
Yeah, 51%, big progress, and I think when, this is not a bad way to complete flirt, in particular against David W. You kind of try to mispair yourself with AIs that are not your ST early on in the game. So, David W. has these useless flirt connections in his head that are going to end up being betrayed later on when you start flirting with your actual ST. Now, obviously, I don't know exactly how David W. conducts his flirt pairing in reality, but it is something that, that little bit of misdirection might be very useful. We do go for a really weird, interesting mid-game swap here from Lev T. It's kind of off screen. Now it's on screen. Contact coming in. We're going to go try to just finish missions really quickly, but the double agent bails on us. We finish our flirt, though.
Well, this is concerning. So far, it looks like David W. just hasn't looked at... I mean, who would swap that statue at that time is the question.
And that is why this kind of thing can work. It's actually surprisingly effective in a lot of scenarios. I've lost to it multiple times in the past in competitive play just because you don't expect someone to just go for kind of this naked swap in the middle of the game that doesn't really get them into Mission 1 countdown. Now Lev T gets that contact. It's going to knock out a couple more of the suspects in this party, but we only need 2 more inspects to finish off this game. Can David W find this shot? Does he realize that there's been a swap?
Well, here comes the first inspect. Here comes the second inspect.
We take the book away as well, trying to just, convince the sniper that we're not finishing here, but we are. 3 seconds, and we're not really even on screen. We don't even seem to be a suspect. And Lev T, I was just mentioning that Lev just would love to just play sniper-sided venues and, snipe his way to victory. But I don't think that's necessary. Taking advantage of these more spy-favored venues and finding those wins.
I have to say, if you're going to be that ballsy, you kind of deserve it. just deciding to swap that statue out front.
Yeah, I think taking advantage of a pretty common, error when you start getting to, especially in higher level play. I think this is something that works a lot better against high level players than it does against intermediate players who are still, conditioned to just check swap all the time. Whereas higher level players are thinking, they have this expectation of what the spy is going to do and will not do. It's so obvious that it's not kind of idea.
Oh well, David going to try and fight back on, of course, the best of twins.
Plain twin indeed. Is, we can call it, we can agree for now that the Planet Twin is the best twin. Let's get it going in 3, 2, 1, Planet.
They must be, because their other twin feels the need to bling things up with artificial jewelry, whereas, we're just so perfect by ourselves.
Are you implying that anyone who wears jewelry is self-conscious?
No, I'm just saying that, Plain Twin obviously has a lot of self-confidence. Enough self-confidence to follow IST halfway around the venue before settling down next to them for our white flirt.
Yep. The spies in this game do tend to have quite a lot of confidence to be so brazen at times in these parties, despite the fact that there is a bullet that is potentially waiting for them at the end. David W, again, going for a relatively subtle flirt pattern here. We're not going directly next to RST again, and that is kind of a theme we see in David W's games. Doesn't try to be too aggressive about that flirt, and I do think that that's very, very frequently something you'll see with a lot of people. The way people snipe often influences what they think about on the spy side, and we're seeing that here with David W. 60% on the flirt now, though, after a green test, a little bit at a little bit of a distance.
I like picking up this line. It gives us plenty of options, plus a fingerprint. The fingerprint, in some ways, actually narrows down our options because it's far more likely that Lev has us pinned down at bar.
Yeah, the fingerprint on the drink here is a green fingerprint, one of those more subtle fingerprints in the game, and the ambassador we see putting down more for us to use. We could even go for a silent game perhaps here if we wanted to. Because of that print on the red books, we could go for a print, delegate, seduce, and inspect game, which would be very interesting from David W. I'd be interested to see if that would work. But of course, a more standard route to finishing at this point is to simply go for maybe a delegate and print and contact. And that contact is a very strong mission, of course.
Well, Emma's putting that print down. We've got our flirt done. It looks like we're going to line up for the contact. Or not, since there wasn't really much room in that conversation. We're doing the stop at Windows of Shame.
Well, that is the SDA, actually. The double agent is currently out of conversation, unfortunately, for David W., so no contact possible at the moment. Instead, we're going to go window to window, maybe looking for a time at, as, again, we are, kind of going low on time. Our delegate timer did just expire, and general here, a highlight going into red books and that is going to smudge the print that I think we were angling for here from David W. Instead, we're going to go to the statue. It is partial inspects for us here. We're just going to go for the swap. It's a green swap.
It's a green swap. Well, that's one mission. We can go to... No, the print will be entirely gone from red books because it smudges on take out and put back.
Yeah, there's a print on bar, though, that we could go for. And we would need to rush over to get a contact in right before the end of this game. Here we go. We kind of break our animation here just to finish that up. Print surely got, print, we're going to take this. But the double agent leaves the conversation that we were going for, and now we don't have any time to finish the game.
The swap's been off screen, though. The swap's off screen.
We're just going to time out. We didn't actually pick up the print.
I think Lev finally saw that swap just as the game ended.
Yeah, and look at this. I think David W. forgets to actually take this print. Because there is 100% a print on this drink. And he delegates to perhaps try to hang the clock, but we don't actually have the print done. If we had delegated and we had this print done, we do get the hang clock, but instead we just time out, and David W., just a little bit of a brain fart at the end of this game here, forgets to take the print, unfortunately times out. There might have been some chance to win. Brutal. There might have been some chance to win that spy game. Of course, the double agent really, really did not help us out there. Very unfriendly double agent in this game. A little bit unlucky from David W., but just a bit of a brain fart.
That's gotta hurt afterwards.
Yeah.
Knowing you had it in your hands, literally. Aww.
Yeah, well, good attempt from David W. to make the best of a bad situation with that double agent. Obviously, there is still a decent chance that David gets shot here at the end of this game, especially when overtime hits. Spies who make it to overtime have a much worse chance of winning on average than finishing missions before it would be overtime, before the clock hangs, because the clock hanging gives so much information. And Lev T is a very strong sniper, but I think there's enough happening at the end of this game that it's feasible. It's definitely feasible that David W. wins this at the end. Unfortunately, though, we will never find out what that would have been because of a forgotten fingerprint. And now Lev T up 6-2 over David W, going into our second round of Redwoods.
And this is Lev's double, so presumably Lev's pretty happy to be up and playing more of his double venue.
Yes, indeed. Starting 2-0 on Redwoods, you can't even lose Redwoods at this point. You'd still have the advantage even if David W sweeps it back at this point. We'll try, but obviously Lev going to try to extend this lead, while David W in a bit of a spot, but we've seen some big comebacks already in this cup. With Rav versus Minirek in particular, there was a huge comeback. Rav looked dead in the water, and David W is not even that far gone yet. David W definitely could bring this back, and if we want to talk about how you need to do that, you just need to lock up the sniper. I think it's been a tough time going on the sniper side from David W here. Of course, the spy side is something that you also need to work on. You do need to find wins on both sides of the laser to bring this back, but it's that sniper side that's been failing thus far. And we have plenty of venues still left to go that are a bit more spy-sided with the modern 4-8, not entirely spy-sided, but, has opportunities. I believe we also have Gallery in there, which is, all right for...
Gallery.
It's Gallery. It's fine. Either way,
Just now, we're going to have to try and shoot Lev, who is going to be trying to zoom his way to victory.
Yes. Wheels in 3, 2, 1, playing it. But yeah, so, there is definitely a path back in this for David W. Oh, an early bug attempt. Cheese and Redwoods, and we pick up the highlight for being at bar, looks like. Looks like it wasn't seen, though.
Well, we said that last time, so I'm not going to put too much stock into that.
RST also comes to us, which is very nice. So we get the green flirt 42%, as well as the potential delegate here.
I don't know, did we actually pick up the delegate?
I assume we would have. There's very little reason not to.
Either way, we're waiting here at windows, presumably to see where our ST goes.
All
no,
right.
it's just into our conversation with the double agent. Is this within buggable distance if we didn't have a drink in hand?
I don't believe it is. It's a little bit far. We would just kind of... Oh, we...
And the end of red.
Lev, going for a sip BB on Redwoods is a little strange, I think. There's no real reason to. Because of how much obstruction there is to, seeing things like small etiquette, especially when you have the conversation in front of you, that front conversation.
Can we just note the beautiful play, which was delegating to Ambassador just before the Purloin timer expired, so that we could both get this briefcase and then get the next print off bar?
Well, I as I was mentioning, despite the fact that the green, the attempt at BB is a bit useless, Lev T, makes use of the fact, oh wow, we're going for a lot of things all at once here. We just need flirts. Whoa.
We just need flirts if we can survive to get to the flirts, is the only issue.
Well, sure,
Given
yeah,
that
we
just took the list from under the sniper's nose.
Yeah, I mean, David W. definitely able to shoot 4 just flirt finishes when the other missions have already been completed, but it's still not the easiest thing to do, even for someone who is tracking those flirt those flirts. And we only need the one more, 85% on this last one here. And that was a very nice... I was trying to talk about how Lev T used that cover to his advantage and kind of cheesed the briefcase, did not return it all the way to the Ambassador, used the front conversation, used the trees to just pick it up, put it right back down, and find a print maybe under David W's nose. And then, of course, as you mentioned, that delegate to the Ambassador to send them to bar so that we could get the list and the print at the same time, missions all at once here. And once this, I don't think that we're going to get shot on this last flirt.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of futures where we do get shot for this last flirt. I think there's a lot of snipers who are here. Here it is. Is David gonna shoot for this? I think there's a lot of worlds where he is willing to take the shot.
I think you're right, but in this case, it is not going to happen. And the difference here is that Lev was not a big suspect, and David W. was still kind of grinding through, taking lowlights, trying to figure out the purloin by the time this last flirt comes off. If David W. had already worked through all of that when we take this last flirt, I think you're right. There's a very good chance that David W. can find that last shot on the flirt. But because the cognition was still somewhere else, it wasn't even really a consideration yet to take that shot. And Lev T, 3-0 on Redwood so far, running away with this match. And, I said that David W. can bring this back, and we've seen it. We've seen similar comebacks in the past. They're very rare, but they're possible. We just saw them again. Rav versus Minarek in the quarterfinals, huge comeback there. And I'd love to see David W. bring this back as well.
Well, he's got a chance to do some stuff as Spy.
Yes, indeed. Playing as Queen here. No Queen X General in this case. Getting it going in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
It is, in fact, Queen and Sikh, which, England historically had a good relationship with India. A good relationship depending on on who you ask.
Good relationship is questionable, but let's not get into perhaps the history here as much. Instead, David W. starting off with a flirt, and in this particular timeline, we can say that we have a good relationship.
We did a early BB and we didn't split out of conversation, which is slightly concerning to me. I was not expecting this from David.
Yeah, David W. not splitting out of the conversation after an early contact, shocker. But instead, we do just have the pretty standard start actually to this game. I feel like very one that you see a lot. Early flirt, maybe an early contact if it's good.
And
this
early contact has actually been pretty good because it's 3 lowlights and it was real for us. So
yeah.
That's a decent amount of mission progress and not too much lost from it.
Yeah, and an interesting idea about contact is that the cost of an early contact also comes with like a little bit of luck. Some early contacts that you do aren't going to be that impactful just because like the lowlights that you knock out are suddenly just going to sit there in conversation and not do anything and not really take up any time anyway. Oh wow!
Here comes a fake.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
2 more lowlights.
I'm not sure I like that, especially as one of the lowlights that were given out is Smallman, and this is one of those venues where Smallman can be very, very dangerous.
Well, it's getting down. I think we're still in a pretty decent spot here, though. Another green flirt. Looks like Inspecs might be the way we're going to go.
Yeah, I imagine we'll pick up a highlight here. We actually are going for a swap. We are going to take the Inspect as well. We weren't highlight for it. We're going to go to this other statue here. It's fingerprintable. We get the green test on the fingerprint. Suddenly a lot of progress is being made really, really quickly, and it's actually
we don't need it.
We're actually kind of over-completing here a little bit.
We only need 4 missions to finish, and we're along to completing 5.
And Lev, look at this. Looking for this swap, I think. I have to imagine that Fade was seen. It was very much on screen, very intentionally watched for, and yes, indeed, David W. takes the bullet. I like the attempt to get all of this progress near the end of this game, and maybe was looking for a print on a non-statue source. Scout is my guess. We were trying to intentionally not complete inspects in this game.
It's still a little bit frightening, trusting that the sniper is going to be sure that you haven't had any other inspects.
I think with Lev, especially when you've got someone who is also highlighting for inspects, you can be very, very confident in that fact. But now it is very dire straits, and the comeback, it would have to be essentially a miracle run at this point for David W. It is now 8-2. You need to win 6 games in a row against a Lev T who seems to be quite on form today on both the Spy and the Sniper, just to make a draw and go to overtime. So David W. looking to I don't want to say has I don't want to say at this point, if you've gotten to this point in the match, that you're giving up, but you certainly feel like, oh, okay, well, I've probably lost this, at this point, any player who makes it to this far and is this far behind,
Never say die.
Never say die. We've seen big comebacks, but dang, this is one. This might even take the cake if it happened for the biggest comeback in SpyParty history. So the odds are low, but David W. sniping to start the dream in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
They're starting out kind of as far out of the venue as you can. It's a big venue if you happen to start at the edge and need to spend your first 30 seconds getting to where you want to go.
Luckily, we are a very fast character, Seek being perhaps surprisingly the second fastest character in the game, only dwarfed by our ST, who is Taft in this game.
At least we're reasonably well matched for speed, but again, Lev's showing absolutely zero interest in flirting early game. Just obviously aware that this is a somewhat fatal move against David.
Do we want to go for a book cheese and get a flirt alongside it? Just like walk us over to green, get a microfilm, and no. Lev T decides better of it. I think it actually might have been okay, given the amount of people at bar, the amount of people in this kind of like front conversation on the right side, that and we have been noticing that David W. is putting a lot of attention onto non-mission sites where AIs are clustered. So, big conversations. And when you have that big cluster, especially in the foreground of what the spy is actually doing, it's a particular blind spot for the sniper that they might miss more frequently than you would expect. So I think Lev definitely could have gone for that. I know in his shoes I might have gone for it myself, just because it looks so juicy, particularly against David W., who is adding that extra attention towards those AIs. And
I think with this kind of league, you can afford to take those slightly higher risk, high reward plays. Either way though, Lev, just trying to keep on playing it slow and solid, I guess. We've at least gotten a green flirt, which will be helpful.
Yeah, green flirt does get us in range of just that 2 flirt here, because it was close enough for that 51%. Next one could be 49 plus. We don't have to be right next to our ST, but relatively close to hit that 2 green. Instead, though, our ST leaves and Lev gives us a little shake. Maybe we just wanted the timer flirt.
It was right as the flirtation cooldown expired, so that's slightly painful when you've spent 45 seconds waiting for that.
Indeed. David W. doing pretty good light tracking, I believe, for the purloin. We see lights going up as people take drinks, and lights critically being brought back down as characters time out on their potential delegates. So it's a very important part of the light for bar strat to bring AIs back down as they do not delegate, or else you're just going to end up with a mess of highlights. That is a big problem for the sniper. So David W. handling that well, but it is still a pretty bright party, and we have actually seen a very strong reduction. Oh, whoa. This is the second
White
time.
Flop in Sniper's face.
This is the second time we've seen something like this from Lev.
Surely it's not going to work 2 times in a row.
You say that.
Surely.
I think something in David W's camera movement here might indicate a little bit of a notice on that statue, just trying not to give it away. But we of course could be wrong here. Maybe it's just not being checked.
We still need to finish flirt, inspect, and presumably contact though, and we have 50 seconds to do that in.
Yeah, not very long. And of course, we're not highlight this time around, so we don't know if David W. We've seen David W. doing the highlight for statue strat in other venues, but this time it is for the bar. ST comes nearby.
ST joins, but far enough away. It's going to have to be 3. Oh, Buck! Buck!
Oh, we go for it, and it's just we're too fast. We're too fast in this case. We triggered that bug a little bit too late, and because of how fast this character is, it just doesn't work out. If it had, we might even be in a decent chance to win this game, but instead we just don't have that bug.
And now we have to flirt, and I think timeout.
I think David W. is more than aware of the fact that we are just rushing to get this bug, and we do get it. We do make overtime, but it is a little bit too late here. David W. takes the correct shot, and it's one game, Scout. It's one game of 6, but you need every single one, and it's got to start somewhere.
I think it was still a valiant attempt, but I think once you've random swapped out of nowhere one game, your sniper's going to be slightly more onto it in future.
Well, I don't think it was actually really perceived. I mean, it wasn't clearly perceived, at least from David W. At least not in a way that we can tell as casters. Obviously, there is a lot of the time when snipers know something and don't give that information out by highlighting or by shooting, things like that. So we can't always be 100% sure what the sniper did and didn't see, but it didn't seem like there was any indication there. But David W. pulling out the salmon on Modern, which I think is a fun idea, because salmon is well known for actually being quite a lot stronger on Modern than other venues, just because of how well the color scheme blends in, and that is a surprisingly strong effect sometimes. So David W. picking the highest win rate character. I don't know if that's actually literally true in the stats, but it's a strong choice, I think, especially when you need the win.
In 3, 2, 1, playing it. Yes, we matched the mahogany flooring quite well.
Well, and
Plus-
all of the paneling and
Plus whatever the rugs are.
oh, this is a little. Oh, oh no, this is so awkward. We tried to just do this entry into books. What is going on, David W?
But we're doing a microphone behind Devon.
I don't think we blend in this much, surely.
Well, we're not shot yet. This is brilliant. David W is doing missions.
He's doing missions in quite the unorthodox way here. I think it's a fun
It's
way
called
to keep
cheese. It's
okay, there's a safety off. I think there's a safety off on something from Lev. I assume it's us.
there's a safety off on his decisions in life from Lev.
Oh goodness, David W. going for some very strange plays here. I mean, I was just talking about how salmon tends to blend into this venue, but surely not that much. And in fact, it might even be worse to be behind Damon, just because of like the fact that, there's a big dark block in front of you that kind of paints you against the wall.
We've got a green flirt
Banana
though.
bread.
A green flirt and a
split.
fake contact followed by a split. So we're back on the David special.
We go
Into
right
blue
back,
books. No, I'm loving this. The one
know
issue
you
is
are.
I suspect that there might be a little bit of we're gonna do it again.
And this time Lev sees it and takes the shot, and in the dream unfortunately ends there. Perhaps David W, feeling as far behind as he was, decided to play for a little bit of the crowd, play it up for the crowd a little bit, and if it works, it's legendary. If it doesn't work, oh well, I was probably going to lose the set anyways. I mean, I can't knock it. I can't knock it. If it works, it is incredible, in my opinion. So I do like the attempt from David W, but unfortunately that does mean that Lev will take the set 9-3. Congratulations to Lev T. Played a very, very solid set of SpyParty. I don't think let any sniper games get away, as far as I recall. Right? No, not a single sniper game.
I can't recall anything. I'm still thinking about that book cheese.
Well now I'm gonna have to dang, are we gonna? Am I gonna have to be careful of that now when we practice Modern?
Oh yes, I will be book cheesing like that.
Oh no. All right. Well, thanks, David W. You've given me something to be scared of in our practice. So, and maybe a new idea for the community. I mean, we've seen this kind of idea with Smallman before, I believe, but I don't believe with Salmon.
No one expects it on any character other than Smallman, so
So
just
surely
style
it's
it out.
great. All right, well, that is it for us today. We do have the finals cast. It's going to be live tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is, if you don't know what EST is, that is going to be in about 21 hours from now. So noon Pacific, or if you're in New Zealand, like Scout is,
9
that's going to be
a.m.
9 a.m. But I don't think we have that many New Zealand viewers out here.
9 a.m. on Monday morning. I don't think we're being too much catered for.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, but it's going to be very, very exciting tomorrow. We're going to have a great casting crew of Taboshi and Slappy Davis. Always very fun to have them on. Kletos as our host, and of course, Koopa versus Rav in the finals. It's a very interesting finals because, of course, Koopa and Rav well known for being close friends. And Rob, of course, is very, very strong, but Koopa, I think for a lot of people, it's a bit of a surprise to see Koopa in the finals here, so it'll be very, very fun tomorrow. That is, again, at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, or, of course, for our one New Zealand viewer, 9 a.m.
Or 9 p.m. CET.
Yeah, I guess the Europeans get to know. Central European time, it's 9 p.m. And if you are interested in things that are not necessarily, casts, if you want to join competitions, like the Winter Cup, like the Penguin Pool that has been run alongside the Winter Cup, that just concluded a couple hours ago with the Emperor Penguin show match, you can join the Discord at discord.gg/SpyParty. Come on in. The water's fine. Lots of friendly faces in the community who just all love the game very much, very engaged, I would say. And if you want to buy the game, SpyParty on Steam or at SpyParty.com. And I think that's it. Thank you, Scott, for casting with me.
Thank you for having me.
And that'll be it. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and have a wonderful night.